Hi guys, I think good evening guys. I think I should be audible and visible now. Uh, okay, let me just check the chat section. Give me a moment. Yes, I think we are good to go. Okay, so how was today's RC? How's the preparation coming along? Just कितने आपके दिन गिनने शुरू हो गए? All of these institutes will be coming up with these headlines: 50 days to CAT, 60 days to CAT. है ना? So okay, all right. I hope your prep is going well. And मुझे कुछ पिछले दिनों में कुछ सवाल, right about this time I start getting questions from students on the lines of, sir, is it possible to crack this exam, or specifically जब भी आरसी के क्वेश्चन थे कि क्या आरसी में 1-2 महीने में इम्प्रूवमेंट होना पॉसिबल है, इज इट डूएबल, और शुड आई जस्ट leave this for the next year, right? And it's a very it's kind of a disappointing but a comforting choice, right? The second choice is kind of comforting in नहीं ठीक है चलो भाई अभी next year आराम से करेंगे. And let me give you a bittersweet news. Bittersweet news is this कि bitter ये है कि नहीं भाई next year का सोचने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. और स्वीट न्यूज़ ये है कि इस साल में 2 महीने में भी काफ़ी आपका इम्प्रूवमेंट हो सकता है. इट इज़ क्वाइट पॉसिबल, so long as you know what are the areas to target and what specifically, what exactly are the steps that you're required to take to improve your RC solving skills. Okay, anyhow, जो ये वाला डिस्कशन है आपका आउट ऑफ लाइक द मेटा लेवल डिस्कशंस आई कॉल देम, राइट, व्हिच डोंट डायरेक्टली, जो मतलब आरसी सॉल्व करने का डिस्कशन नहीं, आरसी के बाहर वाला डिस्कशन, वो हम लोग वो सारे डिस्कशन हम लोग थोड़ा सा उसके लिए अलग सेशन रखेंगे. आई प्रॉब्ली टुमारो इज सैटरडे, राइट, सो आई ट्राई टू टेक अ सेशन ऑन दैट tomorrow about how to read an RC, something on those lines. अभी के लिए let's go about the session the way we go about it usually, right? जैसा हम लोग हर बार करते हैं वैसे ही करते हैं. अभी के लिए let's just start off today's session of RCs at 6 p.m. Okay, RC number 4 कर रहे हैं आज हम लोग, and well, let me take you to the next. Yeah, so today's RC is titled as the iPhone versus the printing press. ये आपको CAT की 2017 या 18 के पेपर में पूछा गया था. 6 questions, 540 words. Difficulty level मैंने इसका कुछ 2.5 रखा है. In fact, it almost comes close. Yeah, like not very difficult basically, right? So like the higher this is, the more difficult the passage is considered to be. ये उतना मुश्किल नहीं होगा. इसमें बस there was only one question which where you might be stuck between the last two options. Apart from that, most of the questions you could have solved quite easily by elimination. आराम से हो जाते हैं. ठीक है, which we will demonstrate, which we will see as we go along, go about the session. चलिए शुरू करते हैं. So as usual, देखो फ्लो आपका जो ये सेशंस का रहता है वो ऐसे ही रहने वाला है. In the first 15 minutes, I'll take you through, what do you say, I'll give you a brief overview of the passage. हर एक पैराग्राफ का एक छोटा सा समरी मैं आपको बता दूंगा. And we will not go word by word or line by line because these are supposed to be short, impactful sessions. That's how we are trying to design them. And in the next 30 minutes, we'll spend on solving the questions, right? And you can ask me your queries and doubts with pertaining to those questions then. वो खत्म होने के बाद फाइनली लास्ट 10-15 मिनट्स आपके क्वेरी रिड्रेसल के लिए, VR से रिलेटेड, कैट रिलेटेड, इन जनरल जो भी आपकी क्वेरीज या कंसर्न्स हैं प्रोफाइल रिलेटेड, आई कैन डेफिनेटली टेक दोस अप. ओके, ऑलराइट, सो लेट्स स्टार्ट ऑफ विद दिस पैसेज. ओके, सो फर्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ द पैसेज. फिर देखो, देयर आर मेनी वेज ऑफ राइटिंग, ऑफ प्रेजेंटिंग one's ideas. Let's say आपका एक let's say you have an idea which you very want to probably talk about how what do you say, reading books in the old way of, reading hard copy books is better than reading books from e-book readers. अगर आपका ये पॉइंट है तो उसका बहुत तरीके से बता सकते हैं. You can probably just start off with talking about that generally trend क्या चलता आ रहा है. ठीक है, वहां से शुरू कर सकते हो. और you can start off with start off the discussion with some narrative story that once what happened was कि आप एक आपका दोस्त था which proposed to you कि नहीं ये किताबें पढ़नी चाहिए. So what I'm trying to say is that there are many ways to present the same point of view, that one wants to present. And इस पैसेज से वो रिलेट ऐसे होता है कि यहाँ पे the author's point of view is that अगर सेंट्रल आइडिया आप इसका देखो पूरे पैसेज का, तो पूरा ऑथर फाइनली बोलना बस इतना सी चीज चाह रहा है कि भाई द प्रिंटिंग प्रेस जो गुटेनबर्ग ने इन्वेंट की थी, वो वाज वे 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 मोर इम्पैक्टफुल अक्रॉस मल्टीपल डोमेन्स लाइक पॉलिटिक्स, रिलीजन, ट्रैवलिंग एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा देन आईफोन, जिसको लोग काफी बार आईफोन को प्रिंटिंग प्रेस से लोग कंपेयर करते हैं, पर आईफोन में अभी तक इतने बेनिफिट्स देखने को नहीं मिले जितने प्रिंटिंग प्रेस में थे. That's essentially the idea that he's trying to convey. Okay, and then to convey that idea, now he has used a different style. अब यहाँ पे स्टाइल जो है, फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ में ऑथर ने कुछ नहीं किया, ऑथर सिंपली स्टार्ट्स विद अ नैरेटिव स्टाइल. नैरेटिव स्टाइल क्या होता है? जहाँ पे you start with kind of telling the reader a story कि okay, I used a smartphone GPS to find my way through the cobblestone maze of Geneva's old town. मैं कहीं तो जा रहा था, घूम रहा था, and वहाँ से मैंने अपने स्मार्टफोन से ये सब पूछ रहा था, in search of a handmade machine that changed the world more than any other invention. Near a 13th century cathedral in the Swiss city of the shores of a lovely lake, I found what I was looking for, a Gutenberg printing press. This was the internet of its day, at least as influential as the iPhone, said Gabriel de Montmollin, the director of the Museum of the Reformation, toying with the replica of Johann Gutenberg's great invention. Now, see, अच्छा, इसका यूटिलिटी क्या हुआ? मैंने जो आपको बताया कि नैरेटिव स्टाइल है. अब देखिए, काफी बार टीचर्स ये चीज बताना मिस कर देते हैं, टाइप्स ऑफ पैसेजेस का भी जब भी डिस्कशन हो ना, जब भी देखो कोई भी चीज की क्लासिफिकेशन अगर की जा रही है, दैट क्लासिफिकेशन इज ओनली यूजफुल सो फार एज इट gives you some insights relating to the way you'll approach insights for action. Any kind of classification, any kind of division of something into multiple parts, ये पूरा जो आइडिया है वो तभी यूजफुल है जब वो आपके when it can form as an insight for your action. In this case, यहाँ पे मैंने आपको बताया कि नैरेटिव स्टाइल में, तो इसका इम्पैक्ट क्या होगा कि आप पैसेज कैसे अप्रोच कर रहे हैं. इसका इम्पैक्ट ये होगा, well, if it is whenever you have a passage which is in a narrative style, a lot of it is just story, and somewhere बीच में एक छोटा सा आइडिया होगा, and the story often serves as a backdrop, which means if it is a backdrop, then there is a very good chance that the central idea, like most of it will not be the central idea, and most of it is just build up for the central idea. Hence, the implication for you being कि ऐसे संदर्भ में, ऐसे cases में, in such context, what you can do is you can be conscious of this fact, and then accordingly you can increase your pace of reading that passage a little bit, because वहां पे कुछ आपका comprehension में छूटने नहीं वाला है, right? So if you have a passage जहाँ पे आपको पता है कि central idea यहाँ पे आने वाला है और यहाँ पे backdrop है, यहाँ पे उसके examples हैं, तो obviously central idea वाला part आप धीरे आराम से पढ़ना चाहेंगे so that you don't miss the gist, and the other parts you want to save some time on, right? So that you'll have, like, you can use the time elsewhere. So that's why. So whenever you are reading something in a narrative tone, in a narrative style, you have the opportunity to save some time here without the risk of losing much content. Okay, much comprehension of the content. ठीक है, I hope that's clear. तो देखो यहाँ पे अभी हमने पूरा पढ़ा, इसमें फाइनली बोल कुछ नहीं रहा ऑथर, बस ये बोल रहा है that in a narrative format the author simply introduces and notes that Gutenberg printing press is a groundbreaking invention. Simple, बस इतना सा किया यहाँ पे ऑथर ने कि भाई it was Gutenberg's printing press was a groundbreaking invention. And ठीक है, यहाँ पे Gabriel some other person commented किया कि iPhone भी, मतलब वो iPhone के साथ उसने equivalence draw किया. That's it. ठीक है, that's the part one of the passage. That's it. Let's move on to the next one. Second part में, now in the second part the author, like in the first part he introduced कि okay, Gutenberg's printing press is what we're going to talk about. He's kind of set the backdrop there, and now he goes on to elaborate कि okay, why was Gutenberg's printing press considered to be so impactful, and how and in what areas. Okay, so he says ये ठीक है, before the invention of the printing press it used to take इतना सारे लोगों को इतना सारा टाइम लगता था बनाने के लिए. उसके बाद once this movable type was introduced in 15th century Europe, the one could crank out 3,000 pages a day, right? इतना सब एक साथ print हो सकता था, and hence before long average people could travel to places that used to be unknown to them because of उनके पास maps आ गए थे. पहले maps भी नहीं थे, सोचो. So today we have Google Maps. So yeah, so we have come a long way, right? Anyhow, so he says, so here he notes that how it had an impact in the sector of travel. देखो ये आपका first travel वाला आ गया. Then he notes how it had an impact in the medical sector, in the sector of medicine. Medical information passed more freely and quickly, diminishing the sway of quacks. Who are the quacks here? Wax here would be the people who don't have a lot of medical information, who claim to be, doctors, right? जिनको so जिनको सही में कुछ नहीं पता है, but they just say कि हाँ ये खा लो, ये पी लो, तो इससे ये ठीक हो जाएगा, and they just try to rob people of money and health even, right? So now that medical information could be passed more freely and quickly, now ये जो ऐसे लोग होते होंगे उनका influence कम हो गया. So printing press had an impact in the field of medicine as well. So this is point number 2. यहाँ पे point number 2 आपका आ गया. I'm gonna note that. The printing press offered the prospect that tyrants would never be able to kill a book. This is the third point, right? Or suppress an idea, right? So then if you have a tyrannical leader, if you have a dictator, right? So तानाशाह जिसको कहते हैं हिंदी में, right? Dictator or a tyrant is called तानाशाह कहा जाता है. So in like, because you will have so many books available, so many prints available, in such cases it will be difficult for the tyrants, for the dictators to suppress ideas, है ना? Because कितनी book आप suppress करेंगे, right? If there are no books, then you simply have to, like, I don't know, kill that particular revolutionary or that person. If you have books, then obviously it becomes way more difficult for these people, these tyrants and dictators, to do that. So obviously, so this is with respect to politics. यहाँ पे आपका politics वाला point हो गया. तीसरी जगह जहाँ पे इसका impact हुआ printing press का, that was in the political arena. After that, Gutenberg's brainchild broke the monopoly that clerics had on scripture. Now clerics and scriptures relates to religion, कि जो religion में भी ये जो आपके clerics होंगे, I think that would be the equivalence of pandits, right? So उनका जो monopoly हुआ था कि नहीं, like it seemed like they had the monopoly on कि क्या करना चाहिए, क्या नहीं करना चाहिए. Now that printing press was there and the religious text could be widely distributed, that they lost that monopoly, right? So it had an impact in the context of religion as well. This is point number 4. And finally, he notes, and later stirred by pamphlets from a version of that same press, the American colonies rose up against a king and gave birth to a nation. ये भी आपके political point से related है, तो मैं इसको भी third label कर. So you can see, अगर if you like try to go word by word, it might seem like कि हाँ बहुत कुछ हो रहा है यहाँ पे, but essentially author ने कुछ नहीं किया. Author has simply noted impact of the printing press in multiple areas. That's it: travel, medicine, politics and religion. ठीक है? Politics में 2 बार अलग-अलग points को relate किया गया, को specify करके discussion किया गया. ठीक है? So that's about the second part. Coming to the third part. So a question. So a question. So up until now, up until the part 2, the author simply talked about, what do you say? Simply just talked about the printing press. ठीक है? अभी तक हमने author ने iPhone के ऊपर कोई discussion नहीं किया. When in fact the passage is about comparing the printing press and the iPhone's impact across sectors, areas. Now he starts his discussion on the iPhone. He simply says, अब यहाँ पे ये जो पूरा हम लोग पूरा paragraph नहीं पढ़ेंगे यहाँ पे. I'll just explain to you very quickly that he says that he questions कि ठीक है यार, printing press पे तो इतना सारा impact हुआ across areas, all of these things took place. But what about iPhone, right? A question arises. So a question in the summer of this 10th century of anniversary of iPhone arises, that has the device that is perhaps the most revolutionary of all time given us a single magnificent idea. क्या ऐसा हुआ है? ऐसा कोई भी उसमें magnificent उसमें idea आया है या नहीं है? Okay, that's the question that he raises. He says that right, so author questions as to the impact of the iPhone and notes how most of it so far has not been useful, quite unlike the printing press. ठीक है? अगर आप एक बार हम लोग read भी करना है, let's do a quick read. Nearly every advancement of the written word through new technology has also advanced humankind. Generally हमेशा ऐसा रहा है कि अगर written word लिखने का, language या written word का कुछ भी अगर से related कोई भी अगर innovation या inventions या advancements आते हैं, it also helps us as a species move forward or progress forward. But sure you can see that iPhone changed everything by putting the world's recorded knowledge in the palm of your hand, right? You have everything accessible in your hand. It revolutionized work, dining, blah 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 blah, बहुत कुछ. So he initially notes the positives, some small positives with respect to the iPhone, and then the author says that it made us more narcissistic. here's more of me doing cool stuff, right? So, say clicking selfie and stuff and putting up statuses, and it unleashed an army of awful trolls. You know, I'm sure you know about what are trolls, right? So trolling जो होता है काफी ज़्यादा hateful trolling आजकल देखने को मिलता है. So we no longer have the patience to sit through a baseball game without that reach to the pocket. And one more casualty of Apple selling more than 1 billion phones in a decade's time is is that daydreaming has become a lost art. Because daydreaming का मौका तो तब मिलेगा ना जब आप बोर होंगे, और बोर तो आप तब तक होंगे नहीं जब तक आपके पास फोन है, right? So you'll always keep reaching for the phone and check notifications ki kya aa raha hai. That's the point the author is trying to make. These are not my points, although I'm not in I might agree with many of these, most of these, but yeah. So that's what he says ki, right? So he has noted some very slight positives about the iPhone here, and then he talks about what we have lost as a result of iPhone, as a result of the iPhone or the smartphone probably. दो ऑथर सीज आईफोन, इसलिए मैं आईफोन बोल रहा हूँ यहाँ पे, ठीक है? वी कैन नॉट, हम लोग इसको खुद से प्रिजम्पटिवली स्मार्टफोन नहीं बना सकते. द पैसेज में जो ऑथर बोल रहा है वही देखना पड़ेगा, राइट? सो या, सो ही नोट्स द अदर नेगेटिव्स ऑफ आईफोन्स हियर, ठीक है? एंड देन फाइनली ही सेज दैट फॉर ऑल ऑफ दैट आई एम स्टिल वेटिंग टू सी कि यार आईफोन से कुछ फायदा, फॉर व्हाट इफ द आईफोन कैन डू व्हाट द प्रिंटिंग प्रेस डिड फॉर रिलीजन एंड डेमोक्रेसी. So for all of these negatives that have crept up due to this technology, the author is waiting कि यार चलो ठीक है, finally is it going to make any kind of difference the way printing technology, printing press did in the context of religion and democracy or not? Okay, and then he makes a point about printing press कि यार printing press में तो काफी फायदा हुआ था, clearly आपको दिखता है. The Geneva Museum makes a strong case that the printing press opened more minds than anything else. It's hard to imagine the French or the American revolutions without those enlightened voices in print. Right, so you can see the gist is just this. The author in this part has simply raised questions as to the impact of iPhone, and he has noted that most of the impact so far has not been useful, at least not as useful as the impact of printing press. Okay, so yeah, आपका part 3 हो गया. Let's go to the next part, and I guess the final, yeah, that's the final part. Here, the author simply notes that not long after Steve Jobs introduced his iPhone. अच्छा, यहाँ पे part 4. Here, the author has noted the failure of iPhone in multiple points. दो जगह नोट किया है, दो तरीके से failure नोट किया है. First, that when like Steve Jobs said that after introducing the iPhone that maybe this will totally replace, this might be the end of your hardbound books as we know them. But that didn't happen. So the author says कि नहीं, ऐसा तो author Steve Jobs ने बोला था, पर ऐसा नहीं हुआ. तो first, that's one failure. But more importantly, the other failure that the author seems to be more concerned with, seems to be more apprehensive about, relates with how opposed to the expectations, that people had from iPhone and the internet. Here, this might help people. This might help free people in closed societies like North Korea or China and Iran. वहाँ पे जो मदद मिलेगी उनको, लोग वहाँ पे जो ऑपरेसिव सोसाइटीज में रह रहे हैं उनको फ्रीडम दिलाने की जो मदद मिल सकती है आईफोन या इंटरनेट के द्वारा, वो नहीं हो पाया. That's the author's primary concern here, right? And hence he notes that, and hence according to the author, the iPhone has not been as impactful when it comes to the political domain, when it comes to the religious domain, as compared to the impact that was created by the printing press. Okay, so he simply notes the failure of the iPhone in replacing books as a medium. But वो तो आपका secondary or tertiary point है. Primary point ये है that he notes the failure of the iPhone. He notes the political failure of the iPhone in freeing people in closed societies. Okay, that's the part by part summary of your RC. अगर ये सारी समरीज मैंने देखो यहाँ पे डाली हुई हैं, अगर इसमें से हमें सेंट्रल आइडिया निकालना हो, इट्स वेरी सिंपल. According to the author, Gutenberg's printing press proved to be a groundbreaking invention with impact across a variety of domains. काफी जगह impact हुआ, groundbreaking invention था. However, the same cannot be said as yet, अभी तक, as yet for the iPhone. Okay, in bracket small bracket you can also write the internet, because the author has also mentioned the internet along with the iPhone. Okay, so that's about the central idea of the passage. I hope that's clear. I hope ये चीज आप समझ पाए हैं. Next, time to move on to the questions now. guys, do realize, I hope that the comment section is available to you, right? So you can always write comments here or your doubts in the comment section, so that I understand where you might be facing problems, I can address them. Let's start with question number 1. Then the printing press has been likened to the internet for which one of the following reasons. Has been likened to the internet for which one of the following reasons? Okay. Why has the author, like for which one of the following reasons the author has considered the printing press to be similar to the internet? Correct. I think this likeness, passage के हिसाब से ये कहाँ पे बा, like what is the reason behind this idea? Like this is based on, this likeness is based on what reason? That's your question. Okay, so let's look at the options one by one. The first one says it enabled rapid access to new information and the sharing of new ideas. This is something that has been talked about in the passage, correct? इसका like if you go to the POR, see, ये आपका the similarity has been pointed out here in this line, that this means this refers to your printing press was the internet of its day at least as influential as the iPhone, right? So as was the internet of the day, तो यहाँ पे आपको similar दिखाया गया है. And then later part the author says that before the invention of the printing press it used to take there's so much time to produce a single book, and now उसके बाद फिर बाद में बहुत सारी किताबें एक साथ आने लगी and books became accessible to people. So ये जो पूरा आपका point of reference है up until here, up until I think 3000 pages a day, this whole point of reference can be used as a substantiation for option number 1. That from that point of reference you can see that yes, it enabled, the reason why he has likened printing press to the internet is that it enabled rapid access to information, to new information and the sharing of new ideas. Correct? So you can mark this as a small s / capital S scenario. इसको mark करके आगे चलते हैं. Next, it represented a new, okay. It represented a new and revolutionary technology compared to the past. Now, so far as so this means to say that printing press has been considered similar to the internet because in both cases they represented a new and revolutionary technology compared to the past, right? That means printing press को भी उसके past वाली technology से compare किया गया होना चाहिए, and internet को भी उसके past वाली technology से compare किया गया होना चाहिए, right? For this option to be true, if that's the reason why, if the reason is that these technologies were new and revolutionary as compared to the technologies before them, in that case you need to have a precedent for both these technologies, right? The passage needs to have had mentioned कि printing press was new and revolutionary with something in the past कि पहले ऐसा हुआ करता था, अब ये नया आ गया, and internet was also new and revolutionary with respect to some other technology in the past कि पहले ऐसा था, ऐसा आ गया. In case of printing press you have that past comparison available. To be fair, वो दिया हुआ है. अब यहाँ देखिए, before the invention of the printing press it used to take monks books लिखते थे वैसे करके, but in case of internet that is not available. So that's the first reservation that we have with respect to this option. Second, it is very clear that this reason has nowhere been cited as a point of similarity between these two. ये तो वैसे भी एक assumption हो जाएगा. एक तो ठीक है, तो second वाला तो वैसे भी print internet की पहले वाली technology की तो बात ही नहीं है. So this option anyways doesn't have a base, and even if you overlook that point, अगर आपने वो वाला point अगर overlook भी कर दिया उसके बाद भी what do you say, even after that this doesn't even after that this idea that this was the reason has not been mentioned anywhere in the passage. Okay, so you eliminate this with a capital E. Next आगे चलते हैं हम लोग. Coming to option 3, it encouraged reading among people by giving them access to thousands of books. अच्छा, अब do you guys recall the author to have talked about The author has talked about reading. Has he talked about encouraging reading among people? He has talked about availability of books, increase in the availability of books due to the printing press, increase in the availability of knowledge due to the iPhone, and all the knowledge in the world being available in the palm of the hand. ये सारा discussion हुए हैं. But guys, we need to understand that two proximal ideas are not the same ideas. Okay, so मतलब दोनों ideas related, two ideas can be related, but yet they will be considered different. Okay, so in this case, just because the author has talked about the availability of knowledge increasing due to the internet or the iPhone, or the availability of books increasing due to the printing press, that doesn't mean that ये दूसरा जो idea है encouraging reading among people, ये भी आपका साथ में आ गया. इसकी बात कहीं नहीं हुई है. This will be eliminated with a capital E by what? By virtue of the error of inclusion. यहाँ पे EOI commit किया जा रहा है, passage के बाहर से सामान आ रहा है यहाँ पे. Next option, it gave people access to pamphlets and literature in several languages. Okay, so maybe you can say this for the printing press. Okay, to be fair enough, yeah, you can say this for the printing press, because printing press की वजह से pamphlets and literature in several languages access मिल गया. But how can that be the reason for internet? How did internet give people access to pamphlets and literature? Okay, and अगर इसमें आप एक लंबा पॉइंट बनाने जाते हैं कि हाँ ठीक है इंफॉर्मेशन आके तो प्रिंट कर लिया, because you can't make that point because that is too far fetched. उतना बाहर हम पैसेज के नहीं जा सकते. Author hasn't said on anything on these lines, so you eliminate this with a capital E, and your correct answer turns out to be option 1. Okay, I hope that's clear. Question number 2 पे आते हैं हम लोग. According to the passage, the invention of the printing press did all of the following except. Now see, this is a triple TF scenario. Triple TF scenario का मतलब होता है, see, usually normally in your RC questions, you are supposed to select that one correct option, and the other 3 options are supposed will usually be incorrect as per the passage. Whenever you have these except questions, and assuming there is no other inversion, अगर none और except दोनों साथ में आ गए तो डबल नेगेटिव होकर वो आपका पॉजिटिव हो जाएगा. बट अगर एक बार सिंपल एक्सेप्ट आ रहा है, या फिर सिर्फ none of the following has been mentioned in the passage, ऐसा कुछ आ रहा है, तो then it is usually the case becomes an inversion case, which means कि अब यहाँ पे आप एक स्टेटमेंट सही है बाकी 3 फॉल्स होंगे. ये केस नहीं होगा आपके यहाँ. This will not be the case. The case will rather be that 3 of the statements will be true and 1 of them will be false, and the false one will be your answer. Okay, चलो अब now according to the passage, the invention of the printing press did all of the following except. That means out of these options, 3 of the statements will match with what the invention of the printing press did. जो सही में हुआ, 3 उससे मैच करेंगे, 1 उससे मैच होगा जो नहीं हुआ. ठीक है. So promoted the spread of enlightened political views across countries. This has been mentioned very clearly. ये आपको दिया गया है. Somewhere in the passage, the author says the printing press opened more minds than anything else. देखो आपको यहाँ दिया है for religion and democracy, the Geneva Museum makes a strong case that the printing press opened more minds than anything else. You have to imagine it's hard to imagine the French or American Revolution without those enlightened voices in the print. तो ये आपका clear POR है इसके लिए. So this is true as per the passage and hence eliminated. True को आपको eliminate करना है यहाँ पे. Don't forget. Next, give people direct access to authentic medical information and religious text. This has also been given very directly. So this is option 1. आपका option 1 यहाँ से आ जाएगा. Option 2 आपका इधर आ जाएगा. It says that yeah, medical information pass more freely and quickly, so option 2 can be inferred from here. Okay, and so true and eliminated with the capital A again. Next, shorten the time taken to produce books and pamphlets. This is also true. This is clearly given. ये भी आपको यहाँ पे दिया हुआ है. So before the printing press इतना टाइम लगता था, उसके बाद one could crank out 3,000 pages per day. So option 3 also has a very clear point of reference. So you eliminate this also with a capital E. Next, enable people to perform various tasks simultaneously. By multitasking का कहीं discussion नहीं हुआ है पूरे passage में. Nowhere has multitasking been talked about in the passage, and that's an error of inclusion. Okay, and hence you eliminate this with a no. You don't eliminate it. You want to select the false option, so you select this with a capital S. Okay, so that's your correct answer in this case. Okay, going to the next question now. I used a smartphone. Okay, Steve Jobs predicted which one of the following with the introduction of the iPhone? Okay, Steve Jobs ने क्या predict किया था iPhone के introduction के साथ? The point of reference is quite clear, right? Here he says, not long after Steve Jobs introduced his iPhone, he said the bound book was probably headed for history's attic. Correct. So he said कि okay, जो book हम लोग जो ये bind की हुई book जो hard copy हम लोग पढ़ते हैं, ये तो अभी ज़्यादा कुछ use नहीं होने वाला. So that's what he said. People would switch from reading on the internet to reading on their iPhones. Okay. So the Steve Jobs, as per the point of reference, says that the bound book will be headed for the attic. That means the people will no more read from the bound book. He did not say anything about switching from the reading on the internet to reading on their iPhones. You know what has been done here is some disparate ideas from various parts of the passage have been picked up. यहाँ से internet उठा लिया, यहाँ से reading उठा लिया, यहाँ से iPhone उठा लिया और उनको एक अजीब तरीके से mix करके एक नया option बना दिया. Okay, this is a very clear case of distortion. This will be considered as an error of distortion, and obviously it doesn't relate with what Steve Jobs says here. So eliminate this with a capital E. Okay. Next, people would lose interest in historical and traditional classics. People would lose interest in historical and traditional classics. Like losing like historical and traditional classics का discussion कहाँ हुआ है? The discussion has been with respect to historical ways of reading books, or maybe the old ways of reading books. Maybe that जो आपका bound book है वो तो tragic. What are the type of texts that are being read? The medium is being discussed, whether it is a hardbound book or whether it is an iPhone. That's what's the subject that is being discussed here, right? It has nothing to do with your historical कि वो आप जो पढ़ रहे हैं वो classics हैं या फिर वो contemporary content है, क्या है? ठीक है, तो ये आपका eliminate. This is an error of inclusion. In fact, ये आपका बाहर से आया हुआ है, historical and traditional classics. So you eliminate this with a E O I with a capital E. Reading printed books would become a thing of the past. Yes, that's what he said. Clear point of reference. We have a very clear point of reference here for this right here. Option 3 का point of reference आपका ये रहा. He said the bound book, right? The printed books will be the bound books, are probably headed for history's attic. So yes, this is a small s / capital S scenario. In fact, almost a capital S scenario. The production of ebooks would eventually fall. No, in fact, you can infer that he said just the opposite. Author ने almost इसका just उल्टा बोला, right? That the production of ebooks would eventually fall. So yeah, so you can eliminate this with a capital E. This is a factual error. This is a factual error, and eliminate it with a capital E. Your correct answer will be option 3. Okay, I hope that's clear. Next question. I'm waiting to see if the iPhone can do what the printing press did for religion and democracy. The author uses which one of the following to indicate his uncertainty? Now this question relates to the author's apprehension or the author's concern with, or the author's, what do you say, suspicion with respect to with the author's suspicion with respect to यार iPhone से कोई फायदा होगा कि नहीं होगा, अभी तक तो कोई फायदा नहीं हुआ, right? That's what he wants to say. So yeah, so it relates with that. It has nothing correct. So that's what we are looking for, and then the point of reference has been given here very directly. Point of reference दिया हुआ है, which is I'm still waiting to see it. It starts from here. If the iPhone can do what the printing press did for religion and democracy. Okay, this is the question's point of reference. ये आपका QPR यहाँ पे है, and then we are supposed to select an option that shows that the author has used to indicate his uncertainty with respect to the expectations from the iPhone. Correct? So you start with the first option, for instance. अगर हम लोग यहाँ पे उठाएं पहला option, the first option says the rise of religious groups in many parts of the world. अच्छा, again, changes and revolutions brought about in the religious domain by the printing press have been talked about in the second paragraph. Fair enough, but अब उसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि कोई भी ऑप्शन में बस एक रिलीजियस वर्ड डाल दो तो वो सेम ही चीज बोल रहा होगा जो कि पैसेज में बोली गई है. करेक्ट? The rise of religious groups has not been talked about anywhere, and in fact definitely not related in a way so that it might be related to the iPhone. So this becomes a case of an error of inclusion on an idea level, error of inclusion on an idea level, as because ये चीज आपका rise of religious groups पूरे passage के अंदर है ही नहीं आपका. Okay, so you eliminate this with a capital E. Next, the expansion in trolling and narcissism among the users of the internet. Now, this was a tricky option, and part of the reason why it was tricky was that the option has been derived from a point of reference which is very near, which is very near to the point of reference of the question. आपका option का point of reference आपका कहीं यहाँ पे है that it made us more narcissistic, it unleashed an army of trolls. ये वाला यहाँ से आपका option, this is from where your option, I think, is it option 2 or option 3? It's option 2. Option 2 has been derived. Okay, and it's quite near, conveniently near to the question's point of reference, right? But what we need to understand here is कि यार हमारी question stem में सिर्फ ये quoted part नहीं दिया गया है, और भी चीज दी गई है, which is in fact more important in this case, which is that what has the author used to indicate his uncertainty? Author has pointed out that yes, the iPhone has made us more narcissistic and has unleashed an army of awful trolls. ठीक है, trolls. But has he used that to showcase that he's uncertain about कि कोई benefit आ सकते हैं कि नहीं? In a way, you can say okay, indirectly use हो रहा है because those are some of the negatives. So the author's argument is something on these lines कि he builds the argument something on these lines that okay, यार इससे mainly actually ये भी घाटा हुआ, ये भी घाटा हुआ, ये भी घाटा हुआ, and I'm kind of waiting कि फायदा क्या होगा. That is what his point is, right? So it might seem like that he has used this argument, in fact, to move towards his final argument of demonstrating that he's uncertain about whether the iPhone can actually also have some benefits with respect to politics and religion. But it is still not direct. It is still not direct. So it comes close, but it is not direct. So हम लोग इसको capitally से eliminate तो नहीं करेंगे, but we'll put this on hold for now. Okay, because ये POR से भी इसका point of reference भी आप काफी close है, and also because even in terms of it is part of the overall argument that the author has made to demonstrate his uncertainty with respect to the iPhones, with respect to expectations from the iPhone. Okay, so that's there. So ऐसे इसको hold पे रखते हैं, आगे चलते हैं. The continued suppression of free speech in closed societies. This is actually something that the author has used to demonstrate that he probably doesn't have a lot of expectation. कहाँ पे दिया हुआ ये? यहाँ पे दिया हुआ है. आपका जो चीज़ है यहाँ पे author ने बात किया है. See, after discussing here that after the question point of reference, he notes that printing press से काफी फायदा हुआ, but and then he starts talking about the negatives or the failures of. This is where he has talked about the failures of the iPhone, right? He first notes that it did not replace the book, and then he notes that here आशा तो थी कि iPhone and internet will help free people in the closed societies, but ऐसा हुआ नहीं. ठीक है, ऐसा हो ना सका. So and the continued suppression of ideas in North Korea, etc., has not borne out. ये सब हुआ नहीं जो कि लोग सोचते थे कि iPhone से होगा. And hence the author is kind of uncertain about the benefits of iPhone. So option 2 में जो discussion हो रहा है, that doesn't relate with the author demonstrating his or indicating his uncertainties as much as this as what option 3 says, which has been demonstrated here in the last part. जहाँ पे author ने ये बोला भी है कि okay, it has certainly been one of the most important products in the world today, but I'm not sure. देखो यहाँ से, this is a very clear point of view. I'm not sure if the world has changed for the better, right? So he's demonstrating his uncertainty by counting on the fact that iPhone and the internet have not been able to free the people from closed societies as they were expected to. So he's uncertain. So what he has used to demonstrate or indicate his uncertainty, the uncertainty of the benefits of iPhone, is used the failure of this product to free people in the closed societies. Okay, so आपका option 3 comes more near. Smallest रखेंगे इसको, smallest slash capital S हो सकता है, ठीक है. Next, the decline in reading habits. Reading habits का discussion कहाँ हो रहा है? Reading habit. So reading has been discussed. Availability of resources for reading has been discussed. Medium of reading probably has been discussed. Availability of knowledge is discussed, but reading habits hasn't been discussed. See, this is how they'll create the option, right, guys? You need to understand this कि वो एकदम ही यहाँ पे apples and oranges की बात करने नहीं लग जाएंगे, इतना आसान नहीं बना देंगे. They'll try to bring in some ideas which are partially related to what has been talked about in the past, but not completely related, to create the wrong options, right? So, but that's what you have to learn to spot. So this commits an error of inclusion, and hence will be eliminated in the capital. आगे चलते हैं. Question number 5. The author attributes the French and American revolutions to the invention of printing press because of what? Okay. यहाँ पे आपको दिया हुआ देखो. The Geneva Museum makes a strong case, this is the point of reference, that the printing press opened more minds than anything else. It's hard to imagine the French or American revolutions without those enlightened voices in print. Okay, so the author attributes the French and American revolutions to the invention of the printing press because of what? क्यों किस लिए attribute किया author ने यहाँ पे? Because so we've read the point of reference. Let's go through the options now. Because maps enable large, like, see, let's try to understand the question step. Why does the author believe that the printing press, okay, served as an important causal factor for the American and French revolutions? क्या कारण था जिसकी वजह से, because of which the printing press served as an important causal factor for the American and French revolution, American and French revolutions. ठीक है, like what was the factors जिसकी वजह से ये था? So this is what you're supposed to figure out. Okay, यहाँ पे passage में आपको दिया हुआ है, passage में दिया हुआ है कि because it opened, the printing press opened more minds than anything else. Okay, and enlightened voices वहाँ पे पहुँच पाए, right? So this is, we're going to look for something related to this probably. So let's come to your first option. Option 1, maps enable large numbers of Europeans to travel and settle in the American continent. So people using maps and traveling by themselves has been talked about, but this has not been used in the context of people using the maps to go and settle in the American continent. So maps enable large number of people to travel. ये point है passage के अंदर. But जो ये second वाला part है, where it says that to travel and settle in the American continent, this hasn't been talked about in the passage. Okay, so you see how they bring in some idea which is related to the passage and थोड़ा सा बाद में उसको distort कर देते. It's a very classic case of distortion, error of distortion, and eliminated to the capital E. Next, the rapid spread of information exposed people to new ideas on freedom and democracy. This does relate, right? This does relate to your जो आपको यहाँ दिया गया है. This relates very clearly to the point of reference. Option 2 का point of reference हो जाएगा आपका ये. Open more minds than anything else, correct? It's hard to imagine the French or American revolutions without those enlightened voices in print. देखो, in print especially, correct? So that's the perfect point of reference here we have for this option. The rapid spread of information exposed people to new ideas on freedom and democracy. So smallest scenario, smallest / capitalist, everything is okay with this option, no concerns. Next, option 3, it encouraged religious freedom among the people by destroying the monopoly of religious leaders. It encouraged religious freedom among the people by destroying the monopoly of religious readers on the scriptures. Now this is an option. अगर आप देखो तो ये passage के हिसाब से option गलत नहीं है. So far as the facts mentioned in the passage are concerned, the option aligns with that. Option उससे align करता है पूरी तरह. जरा सा भी उसमें कोई खामी नहीं है उस मापदंड के हिसाब से अगर देखा जाए इसको. But the problem with the option is related more to the question step. So yes, it's true according to the passage that yes, the printing press did encourage religious freedom among the people by destroying the monopoly of religious readers, like the clerics वाला जो point दिया हुआ है आपको यहाँ पे, right? It says broke the monopoly that clerics had on scripture, correct? So ये point आपको दिया हुआ है, but does this relate to the revolution again? क्या इसका रिलेशन रेवोल्यूशन के साथ किया गया है? क्या ऑथर ने इसकी बात रेवोल्यूशन की कॉन्टेक्स्ट में की? द ऑथर हैजंट टॉक्ड अबाउट दिस पॉइंट, encouraging religious freedom among people by destroying the monopoly of the clerics or the religious leaders on the scriptures. He has talked about this point, but not in the context of the American or French Revolution, right? So this will be a case of true but not relevant. Your true but not relevant kind of incorrect options are usually the options that many students fall for. Yeah, these are the options. These are kind of like very good trap options जो बहुत सारे students को यहाँ पे फंसा लेते हैं. That's why I want you to get used to these. You know, so the important characteristic of these options is that ये passage के हिसाब से गलत नहीं होंगे, but ये question stem के हिसाब से गलत होंगे. So they are true as per the passage, so true but not relevant to the question stem, and hence eliminated the capital E. Next question, it made available revolutionary strategies and opinions to the people. Yeah, so probably something that you can like okay, देखो आप इसमें revolutionary opinions वाला part you can infer. You can still infer that it made available revolutionary opinions about democracy and political structure and religious ideas maybe. That's something that you can infer. But strategy कहाँ से available हुआ? Strategy का discussion कहाँ पे आ रहा है passage के अंदर? Strategy का discussion कहीं पे भी नहीं है, right? So that's that revolutionary strategy goes a little too far, and hence you can eliminate this also with an error of, I think strategies को हल्का सा मतलब उस opinions and ideas को change करके strategy कर दिया, तो I'll call this an error of distortion and eliminate this with a capital E. Yeah, okay. Your correct answer here will thus be option 2. Let's go to the last question. The main characteristic, the main conclusion of the passage is that the new technology has done what? Main conclusion क्या है? Main idea क्या है? Primary purpose, something on those lines. Primary purpose and central idea are more or less the same, but चलो वो discussion लोग बाद में करेंगे. For now, let's answer the question. The main conclusion of the passage is that, what is it? First option says that technology, that the new technology, that means the iPhone वाला जो technology है, right? That's what he's talking about. Has some advantages, but these are outweighed by its disadvantages. The new technology has some advantages, but these are outweighed by its disadvantages. Okay. Frankly speaking, the author doesn't seem to have considered the advantages as substantial. Yeah, he does. He simply notes those points as facts. Everyone has the knowledge and everything available, but he still seems to be pointing out, focused more on the negative issues that have arisen due to the new technology, that is the iPhone, and how many benefits that people expected from this technology have not been have not proved to be fruitful so far. Correct? So advantages are outweighed by disadvantages. दिया आपका distortion होगा, error of distortion and eliminated with the capital E. Okay. Maximum आप इसको small e यहाँ पे रख सकते हैं, weak elimination, but like selection तो नहीं होगा, because the author doesn't seem to be focused at all on the advantages here so far as the new technology is concerned. Option 2, so far not proved. So the new technology has so far not proved as successful as the printing press in the opening people's mind. Yes, the author's main focus in the passage has been, as we can see from the passage, that how impactful have these technologies been comparatively with respect to the political and religious arena, right? जैसे printing press ने political में revolutions पूरे खड़े कर दिए थे, religions में काफी impact किया था, because it broke the monopoly of clerics in religion, medicine में बहुत कुछ किया था, वैसे कुछ किया था. वो सारी चीजें आपको iPhone में देखने को नहीं मिली. That is something that is central to the author's point of view. Okay, कि iPhone में वैसा अभी तक नहीं हुआ so far, and this is very clear, right? अगर आप देखो, like just look at the point of reference here. He says, I'm not sure if the world has changed for the better. I think is still the iPhone is still young, and I'm not sure if the world has changed for the better with the iPhone as it did with the printing press, or merely changed. So it has changed, but he's not sure if it has changed for the better, and he still says कि okay, it is still young, and ठीक है आगे देखते हैं क्या होता है, right? So far, but he's quite convinced that so far it has not proved to be successful. So this is a case where we'll mark it as a smallest. Okay, weak selection करके आगे चलेंगे. There's nothing objectionable in the option, that's for sure, and it's quite in line with the author's point of view. The technology has been disappointing because it has changed society too rapidly. Okay, now so in this option has been disappointing जो part है, this is something that we are totally okay with because that's what the author has been disappointed by this. वो clear दिख रहा है, but the reason of disappointment given in the passage is different from the reason of disappointment given in this option. In the passage, the reason of disappointment is more with respect to how the hopes that people had with respect to iPhone and internet ki how they will free the people from closed societies वो realize नहीं हुए. That's the reason. Option में क्या बोल रहा है कि इसका कारण ये है, disappointment का कारण ये है that society, because that iPhone changed the society too rapidly. The author's concern has nowhere in the passage been shown as with respect has been shown as related to the pace at which things are changing. उससे उसको कोई दिक्कत नहीं. ठीक है, सो ये जो आपका डिस्टॉर्शन हो जाएगा. पेस ऑफ चेंज से कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. So eliminate with the capital E. Being more wasteful than the printing press because people spend more time daydreaming or surfing. Now this is a very clear, एक daydream वाला आइडिया यहाँ से उठा गया, यहाँ पे वेस्ट वाला टाइम आइडिया थोड़ा सा खुद से बना दिया, and that's how they created the incorrect option. See, again, the author's concern, and we've just repeated this, हमने एक दो ऑप्शन में भी हमने यही देखा. वापस से एक बार मैं बता रहा हूँ कि the author's concern is with respect to the benefits that people expected, that people were hopeful for in terms of people being freed in the closed economies or closed parts of the world, right? It would free people in the closed societies. ये जो benefits expected थे और ये benefits realized नहीं हुए, that is the author's main concern. The author's main concern has not been how rapidly the change has happened or has not been how wasteful one of the iPhone has been. None of them seem to be the major concern of the author. He has cited them. He has cited how people have become restless these days. कि शांति से बैठते नहीं है, हमेशा फोन उठाते रहते हैं. He has cited that. But wasteful वाला जो part है वो author ने नहीं बात किया. Okay, so hence you eliminate this with a capital E, and I think this will also be an error of wasteful. I think distortion ही रहेगा because बहुत बाहर से कोई चीज यहाँ पे नहीं आई. The capital E eliminated. The correct answer here, guys, will be option 2. Okay, and with that we close today's session. We are open for doubts and queries. जो भी आपके हों बताइए मुझे, and I'll try to address them in the best way possible. It can be related to the RC, it can be related to VRC preparation as such in general. Tell me about like whatever it is. You can inform me. Okay, कुछ नहीं है तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. मैं आपको बस इंफॉर्मेशन एक और कन्वे कर दे रहा हूँ that so far as the series RCs at 6 PM वाला जो series is concerned, like the passages are made available for solving for students on the Sluggers platform. On the Sluggers platform पे आपको ये passage मिल जाएंगे solve करने के लिए. आपको Sluggers platform का link is given in the description, right? So platform link has been given in the description. Please excuse my handwriting here. Okay, so you can access that, and probably there should also be the group link, Telegram group link भी आपका होना चाहिए, वो भी आप access कर सकते हैं वहाँ से. ठीक है, that's about it from my end, and yeah, I'm assuming it seems like there are no doubts, there are no queries. I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll probably not solve an RC. We'll probably do a kind of a theory session. How to read an RC के ऊपर हम लोग कुछ करेंगे. Identifying strong and weak statements by using keywords. Sheikh, आपका सवाल है कि how to. So I think your question is कि how to identify strong and weak statements by using keywords, right? And my from the way I understand what you're asking here is कि हम लोग जो strong selection करते हैं option को हम लोग strong selection या weak selection कर रहे हैं, वो कहाँ से कैसे कर रहे हैं, correct? वो आपका सवाल है जहाँ तक मुझे लग रहा है. ठीक है, ठीक है. So I'll try to answer that. Wait, see, keywords. हाँ, करेक्ट करेक्ट करेक्ट, मैं समझा, मैं आपकी बात समझ गया. सो यस, कीवर्ड्स विल बी इम्पॉर्टेंट हियर. जब आपको, सो मैं एक ब्रीफली एक चीज़ आपको यहाँ समझाता हूँ कि जब भी हम लोग, आपने ये नोटिस किया होगा कि ऑफन टाइम्स व्हेन आरसी में जब क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करते हैं एक सब्जेक्टिविटी वाला एंगल लगता है लोग कि नहीं यार, कभी कभी जो एकदम सही होता है उसी को मार्क करते हैं, कभी कभी जो ऑप्शन सही नहीं होता है उसको भी मार्क कर देते हैं, बहुत सारा कंफ्यूजन होता है, राइट. तो हमने इसका बात किया था कि टू रिजॉल्व दिस प्रॉब्लम वी केम अप विद दिस मेथड ऑफ लेबलिंग द ऑप्शंस ऑन दीज पैरामीटर्स. ठीक है, इसमें फंडा क्या होता है, मैं आपको बता दे रहा हूँ, कीवर्ड्स वाला भी बता रहा हूँ शेख, जस्ट थोड़ा सा 1 मिनट ध्यान से सुनोगे तो क्लियर हो जाएगा. सो व्हाट वी डिड हियर वाज कि यार सारे ऑप्शन को सेम मार्क नहीं किया जाएगा. इफ यू आर वेरी क्लियर कि नहीं यार ये ऑप्शन में तो आई हैव रीजन इनफ टू एलिमिनेट दिस कि ये तो आंसर हो ही नहीं सकता, देन यू एलिमिनेट दिस विद अ स्ट्रांग एलिमिनेशन. इफ यू आर पार्शियली क्लियर कि नहीं यार, लाइक मोस्ट प्रोबेबली दिस ऑप्शन इज इनकरेक्ट, लाइक बट यू आर नॉट वेरी श्योर, लाइक हो सकता है कि क्या पता, मे बी थोड़ा सा ऑब्जेक्शन तो आ रहा है एक जगह, बट देन अगेन यू आर नॉट वेरी क्लियर, एकदम श्योर नहीं है, तो आप वीक एलिमिनेशन मार्क करोगे. when you are neither sure of elimination nor sure of selection, you're like okay, like we'll have to like look into the passage, बहुत कुछ देखना पड़ेगा इसको, तो फिर उसको होल्ड पे रख दो ऑप्शन. ओके, you don't have enough points for selecting it, you don't have enough points for eliminating it, so होल्ड पे रख दिया ऑप्शन को. that is the symbol for hold is O. if you have substantial points, okay नहीं ठीक है, सही लग रहा है, बट एक छोटा सा लाइक अगर यहाँ पे इसको भी थोड़ा सा और अच्छे से फ्रेज कर दिया होता तो ये ऑप्शन एकदम परफेक्ट हो जाता. So it is a good option, but it is not the perfect option. So it's a weak selection. And if it is the perfect option, now a perfect option will be one where you might not even consider reading the other options. उस हद तक वो उतना सही लगेगा, which I would never advise by the way. Then it becomes the case of strong selection. जब आप आरसी में क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करेंगे, जरूरी नहीं है कि आपको हमेशा ये वाला सिनेरियो देखने को मिले कि what do you say? You will not always get this scenario कि yes ट्रिपल ई, लाइक करेक्ट आंसर जो आपका है वो कैपिटल एस और इनकरेक्ट आंसर आपके स्मॉल कैपिटल ई. हमेशा ऐसा नहीं मिलेगा. ऑफन टाइम्स यू विल कम अक्रॉस सिनेरियो जहां पे यू विल हैव एन ओ, यू विल हैव एन ई, कैपिटल ई एंड कैपिटल ई. गॉट इट. तो और ऐसे में आप क्या मार्क करोगे? सो इन दिस केस यू मार्क्ड स्मॉल एस, कैपिटल एस इज द करेक्ट आंसर. यहाँ पे आप क्या मार्क करेंगे? यहाँ पे आप ओ को करेक्ट आंसर मार्क करेंगे बिकॉज इट इज स्टिल द बेस्ट ऑफ द अदर ऑप्शंस, बेटर देन द अदर ऑप्शंस, राइट. And now you'll be able to make sense why in some cases कैपिटल एस को हम लोग सही आंसर मार्क करते हैं, why in some cases हम लोग जो न्यूट्रल है उसको भी सही मार्क करते हैं. ठीक है, so this is the idea behind this, the logic behind having this method of labeling the options. अब इसमें आपका जो सवाल है, आपके सवाल पे मैं आता हूँ कि कीवर्ड से कैसे आइडेंटिफाई करें. तो पहली बात तो मैं ये बोलूँगा कि कीवर्ड्स जो है वो आपके दो जगह से आएंगे. And the first and most important point with respect to the keyword will be your question stem. Your keywords will come from can come from two places, two areas. Okay, मैं यहाँ पे लिख देता हूँ इसको. Right, one can be from the question stem, and now once you understand the question stem, it can also subsequently come from the passage. Now you have to select an option. Your option, आपके पास अगर 4 ऑप्शन है, then the first block that the option has to cross is that of the कि यार वो पहले तो पैसेज के हिसाब से सही होना चाहिए और बाद में क्वेश्चन स्टेम के हिसाब से. तो आप पहले कीवर्ड जो आप आज देखो कि फॉर एग्जांपल यहाँ पे देख लीजिए आप क्वेश्चन नंबर, अगर मैं ये देखूं स्टीव जॉब्स वाला है, यहाँ स्टीव जॉब्स से रिलेटेड पॉइंट है, तो आपके कीवर्ड्स जो है will come from the should be related to the POR where Steve Jobs has been talked about. अब वहां पे कीवर्ड्स क्या होंगे? बाउंड बुक हो गया आपका, ये कीवर्ड हो गया, करेक्ट. हिस्ट्री एटिक ये कीवर्ड हो गया. एंड नाउ यू विल बी लुकिंग फॉर द कीवर्ड्स दैट रिलेट टू बाउंड बुक एंड हिस्ट्री एटिक. गॉट इट. तो इन शॉर्ट व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू टेल यू इज कि स्ट्रॉन्ग सिलेक्शन ले रहे हो, वीक सिलेक्शन ले रहे हो, स्ट्रॉन्ग एलिमिनेशन या वीक एलिमिनेशन में कीवर्ड्स को आप यूज कर सकते हैं. कीवर्ड्स लेने के लिए आपको कहां से कैसे मालूम करना है कीवर्ड्स क्या है? क्वेश्चन स्टेम में जाइए, पहले क्वेश्चन स्टेम के हिसाब से मालूम करिए कि पॉइंट ऑफ रेफरेंस क्या है, एंड उसके हिसाब से आपको कीवर्ड्स पता चल जाएंगे. नाउ यू कैन लुक फॉर द कीवर्ड्स द ऑप्शंस. ओके, that's how you can go about this. I hope that clarifies your question to some extent. कुछ हद तक clarify हुआ होगा. बाकी हम और भी इसको जब करते रहेंगे तो आपको ये और भी clear होगा. Frankly speaking, मैं सिर्फ एक दो कीवर्ड चेक करने वाले तरीके मैं जनरली डिप्लॉय नहीं करता हूँ. मैं स्टूडेंट्स को वो नहीं सिखाता हूँ बिकॉज उनमें कभी कभी कंसर्न्स भी आते हैं. मैं जो सिखाता हूँ कि मैं इस तरह से स्टूडेंट्स को ये दिखाना चाहता हूँ कि यार आप जब ऑप्शंस पढ़ रहे हैं आपको ऑप्शन का हर एक शब्द देखना. ओके हर एक शब्द आपको ऑप्शन का देखना. योर करेक्ट ऑप्शन इज लाइक अ वाइट शर्ट. अगर शर्ट के एक भी पार्ट में छोटा सा भी दाग हुआ तो उसके ऊपर ऑब्जेक्शन उठेगा, तो वो कीवर्ड हो या ना. गॉट इट? द करेक्ट. हाँ, अब बाकी पता चला कि बाकी सारे ऑप्शंस और भी ज्यादा गंदे हैं, खराब हैं, दाग वाले हैं, तो बात अलग है. ठीक है. एनी हाउ दैट्स अबाउट इट गाइस. और कोई सवाल हो तो बताइए, अदरवाइज विल क्लोज द सेशन एंड आई विल सी यू गाइस टुमारो. चलिए, थैंक यू गाइस, थैंक यू सो मच. आई विल सी यू टुमारो देन. इफ यू लाइक द सेशन, अगर आपको यूजफुल लग रहा है तो डेफिनेटली इसको लाइक करके अपने फ्रेंड्स और बाकी लोगों के साथ शेयर करिएगा. दैट्स इट. दैट विल बी हेल्पफुल फॉर अस. So that will keep us motivated to keep making these. Okay, that's about it. Have a good day. Have a good evening. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.